Hello and welcome to Gierok Farms. In today's video, we're gonna go check out the crops, and we thought we'd bring you guys along with us and show you what's going on. We're gonna do some stand counts and kind of check out how the corn is doing. We're gonna look at the no-till ground versus the tilled ground and look at the comparisons there. Just overall, see how everything's coming along. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, so this first field we're gonna check out is our no-till, and it was hay the year before, and we took it out of hay and planted corn right into it and sprayed it. What date was this planted?
This was planted on the 18th of May, and I didn't burn it down with the no-till spray until well, maybe it was maybe a week before that. So this was, you know, this was all green in the spring already. I think the soil conditions were pretty good. I had some starter left, so I did use it. This has been manured really good. It's been in hay for what? Had to be about 8 years.
Yeah, it was in hay for a long time.
So, you know, it should have everything it needs in here. But the one thing I've noticed is this stuff, it seemed to take forever for it to come up.
Which I think on a cold spring, that's pretty typical of no-till. It's a colder soil. It's not as appealing of a seed bed for germination right off the bat. It's not going to take off as fast as your till.
And our planter is not a no-till planter. I've got a 900 air planter, International 900, and the one thing is in sod like this was, it will knife it in. We do set it a little deeper, so it does get it in good, and we set our closure discs a little bit tighter too, just for no-till.
All right, so we're going to do a stand count quick, and we're running 38-inch rows. So we got to measure out 13 feet 9 inches, and then count the plants within that row, and that will tell us how many plants per acre that we have.
So what I do is just go out to, we'll just lock our tape measure on 13.9. Down by one. And we count them. 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So here we got 30. Now there's a couple plants that are, you know, they might not, you know, you may not necessarily want to count them, but I think if you want to get a real accurate thing, you do that 3-4 different places in the field.
Yeah, so I'd say average you're going to look at anywhere from 28,000 plants per acre to 30,000 plants per acre for what we counted here. Because we counted, what, 30, 31?
Well, the planter set at like 28 something. I'd have to look at the book again. But when you drive slow enough and steady enough, it's like, where did I see it?
Here, right here, they're stacked up. Like, look at the spacing difference here.
You know, you'd get that, and then over here, you know, there's a little more space, but like over here, here's two that are close. Of course, this was one too, but then you got this huge gap, and then here there's actually, and what that is there's, I think on my drum, there would be 2 seeds on one hole instead of one, and then you go not too far down again, it's there again.
Yeah, a big part of that is it's no-till ground, and it's not a no-till planter, so that, you know, affects how nice it's cutting in and leaving a trench. And
so if the planter set at 28, sometimes, I mean, I can go down different places and get 31, 32,000 measuring like this. And then, like you said, there's certain places it's only 24. You get up on those higher spots, there's a few places. I think I got a little bit of a bug problem going in a couple of the higher spots. We got so much manure spread in here on top of the sod, and just so it'll vary a little bit.
And you don't want your plants stacked together. You know, obviously we're not crop farmers, but if you were a crop farmer, you wouldn't like to see that. You wouldn't want to see your plants smashed together like that. You want them all spaced evenly and uniformly, because then that's gonna, you know, they're not gonna compete with each other. They're all gonna grow at the same speed, and they're gonna stay a consistent height. But, you know, like we're saying, we're using older, cheaper equipment, you know, so we're benefiting from that versus upgrading to a, you know, a 30-inch row planter and exact emerge and special downforce.
Well, that's just it. We only put like 50 acres of corn in, and this being been in sod for almost 10 years, and now we're at 38-inch rows besides. So if there was a few plants closer, they still you know, they still got the
yeah, they got
advantage.
they got plenty of nutrients here.
But the one thing we've noticed with when it comes to like this spring, especially cold on this no-till, is the plants, and you could tell maybe a week ago more than now, but a lot of the plants were just different heights. Some were growing fast, some were just barely taking off. And when you go down to our tillage fields, they're very even right across. So the plants are coming up later. But it wouldn't surprise me nothing, by the time we get to early August, this field's gonna outdo that field. Very possible.
Yeah, last year we had this up on the hill where we had no-till right next to tillage, and by the time we harvested, I don't think we could see much of a difference.
Couldn't. And you could see from a distance, even just looking at the corn from a distance from our bottoms to our hills, which are always good last year. Our hills really took off.
On a dry year, no-till should do better because it will hold on to moisture longer, especially something like this that had a lot of manure and it was sod the year before. It's not gonna dry out as fast. And last year was a dry year, so we benefited from our no-till planting. So, but yeah, we're gonna head down to the bottoms and we'll show you guys the difference, and that looks real beautiful down there. So, but we'll do a stand count down there as well.
Knee-high 4th of July. Now the old timers, they just love that. So if you wanted to make your crop look better, you always have some short person help you with that. Yeah. But there's a little science to that.
So we're down here on the flat, and we're gonna do a stand count right away here. See the difference. Right away off the bat, we can tell it's a lot more uniformed. And this is the ground that was tilled. And again,
board plowed.
Yeah. So measure out 13.9.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. We could even 31, 32,000. And just looking at this field, it's so consistent. And the other thing we noticed is, now here there's two that are closer together, but there was a lot more of that in the no-till. And we were kind of talking about that. Maybe the planter, being the soil wasn't tilled, it's a little sticky and some seeds might hang up, or maybe I did plant slow enough, but maybe it wasn't quite as smooth, being that my press wheels had to jump over some of the high spots.
Yeah, for the planter that we have, this tilled ground, it was a way nicer seed bed. It definitely is a lot more uniformed. You can see how, especially in this row here, how everything's spaced so beautifully compared to that no-till stuff.
And if you get, like, we got these hills here, so we're making hay now at this time, and you get up on the hills and you can kind of see across into the neighboring properties around us. Some of these guys are pretty big corn farmers. You can really see the difference. And there was one example over the hill here where you could tell from a long distance, where he did some tillage, where they had some cattle and things, and that corn looks a lot.
Yeah, I think on this cold, wet, late spring, this late year, I think the tilled ground is killing it right now compared to no-till. But if it dried up, then the no-till will probably do better.
Well, yeah, and you really can't be a full judge to that till the end of this.
Yeah, it's all about what you're getting off it when you harvest it.
Well, we got a little more fuel in with our tillage, but we didn't have to add as much starters because we did have a lot of manure in this rye too. There was quite a bit of stuff, quite a bit of goodies down here. We did do some soil sampling last fall.
Yeah, and our this is corn on corn because it's our level of stuff on the farm, so we keep it in corn. And with the recommendations that came back from the lab, this field, with our cover crop program and our fertilizer that we've been putting on along with our manure, this field has done the best. It
showed the best results.
Yeah, it doesn't really need anything, so I'm really happy to see that even on our corn on corn ground, we're not starving it for anything. The pH is balanced, and our program, it's working out here, which is really satisfying to see.
I mean, I would put some lime on every several years. I would add lime in, and the other thing is a lot of the manures, we get a lot of lime put into our barns, which I think it's right with the manure. It's already working right where it's supposed to start working. So
this field is super uniform compared to that no-till piece we're looking at, and that's what you want. You want every plant on the same page, so nothing's competing with each other. They're all
evenly spaced.
Yep, they're all at a fair
and isn't
chance here.
Isn't that a lot why we try to go narrower rows? I mean,
and then you open up your spacing within the row, and then some guys might push a higher population like 33 or 34, and then in a 30-inch row setup or a 22-inch row setup, then you can do that.
I think the bigger thing with when you start getting too narrow, especially where we live with a lot of slopes and stuff, is that wheel.
Yeah, you can't follow the row. Say you're going to side dress it or spray it.
You can't straddle that.
Or even with the combine coming back to harvest it, you know, if you're sliding down the hill, there's less leeway there.
And I think, like, originally they were 40-inch rows.
Yeah.
And that was where a horse had to walk between the rows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my first planter was a 40-inch row, and then I set it to a 38, and that corn planter, or the corn picker, that's set at 40-inch. But you can cheat a little with that.
Yeah.
You know, it'll pull it in that little.
So even though wide row might not be the best yield-wise, with the price of equipment and everything, it's working for us.
For us to switch everything up for that little extra that we may get.
Yeah, that'd be the thing. It'd be a drastic change. It'd be a big business decision, because we'd have to change our harvest equipment, our planing equipment, and our storage.
Yeah.
If we wanted to store on the farm here, we would have to get rid of the cribs and put bins up. So it wouldn't just be go buy a 30-inch row planter. You'd have to.
Really, on this farm, we focus a lot more on our hay, and pastures, and our dairy.
Yeah.
You know, this is all going through cows. We're not grain farmers, like you were saying. We're not really crop farmers, but we still who doesn't want to see a good-looking garden? I mean, the old joke is you save your packages from your garden so you know what your garden should have looked like. And this is beautiful.
I was telling him about the vegetative stages, and that other field was probably at V4, most of them plants, and this is getting up to V6, and that's how many leaves that are on the plant, and that you can see the collar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wouldn't count this guy right here because he's not fanned out enough yet, but that's how I count them. I'm sure there's a couple different opinions on that, but
they're all pretty much the same here.
And why that matters is certain chemicals, or even if you're going to side dress, some people base off their vegetative stage when they would go do that. And certain products recommend certain stages to do certain things. So that's why a farmer would want to know that. But yeah, the tillage ground down here is by far ahead of everything else. So we've been talking about this stand counts, and how for wide row it's 13.9 is what you're measuring. So for 30-inch rows, so for narrower, it would be 17.5, and then 36-inch rows would be 14.5, I believe, something like that.
You got that chart to show.
Yeah, I'll throw that up on the screen, but
that really helps a guy know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Once you plant one year, and then you go around with your tape measure and look at what's going on before you make any adjustments.
Yeah, you can make sure that your planter is doing what it says it's doing based off the chart on your planter and what you seen out in the field.
Yeah,
because you'd hate to plant you know, like 25,000 plants per acre, because then you're leaving potential out there, you know, and ground's so expensive, you might as well get what you can out of it.
I remember a lot when I started here, they were talking in 20 to 25 wasn't uncommon.
Yeah.
30 was the highest, and they said that your fertility better be really good if you go that. But
now with the new seed genetics and traits and all the new products out there and equipment, I think it's not a terrible thing to have a higher population.
Well, I remember when they used to say, by the 20th of May, if you planted your corn here, we're in west central Wisconsin, so the 20th of May, it was kind of the cutoff to get your full yield. If you had it planted before then, it really didn't make much difference if it was earlier. But now they kind of talk about the 10th of May being kind of your cutoff, because your seeds are hardier. Some of these guys will plant that stuff, it'll be in the ground 2.5, 3 weeks. You won't see it.
Speaking of maturity, do you remember what you planted? That might make a difference too.
Okay, so I think what we do is, so our sod fields or our hill fields are usually, I think they're 95.
Okay.
That's a 95, and then down there's a 97. So typically, and these seed companies, they switch up what's available. Sometimes you can't get what you want, but typically what I'd do, anything I'm gonna pick or make for dry grain, we'd be around a 94 day, 95 maybe. And then my silage corns, or most of it would go for silage. Some of that might make grain down there. Usually I'm a 99 day. I try to stay under 100.
And those numbers are the days till it reaches maturity. So
and
if you had a shorter growing season, you want a lower relative maturity.
Wow. And see, that's the thing. I remember the agronomist telling us what you should do if you're going to have this type of season. So then we would ask them, well, then what kind of season are we going to get?
Yeah.
And of course we have to just think back of what the years leading up to that point were, because like last year we could have put in 110 days.
Yeah.
We could have really went to town with that corn.
Yeah, we had a early spring, late fall.
Yeah, but you don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be snowing by October, it'd be the opposite. So then, and then we've had what, 4 or 5 years earlier. There was some of them years in there we got awfully late, and I was putting in 89, 90-day corn, and it still was questionable for maturity. So it couldn't really make a difference.
But I hope you guys learned something. I hope we maybe answered some of the questions some of you might have had. If you have any more questions, leave them down in the comments. Or if you have any recommendations, also leave them down there. We'd like to see what you guys have to say.
Because we don't know everything.
Yeah.
We're just telling you what we experienced and what
we're learning along with everybody else.
Yep.
So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.